How's it going, guys? Ponylover1989 here, and welcome to another reaction episode. Okay, now that I've finished reacting to Razorblade reviewing the #1 kids movie on Netflix, I am now going to be reacting to another one by Just Stop. It is the worst season of Total Drama. I mean, I've seen some of the episodes of Total Drama Island on Cartoon Network. Only some of them. I never actually got to watch the rest, but here we go in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, advertising the One Love movie? I have seen
When
it.
you look back at the 2000s, Cartoon Network was a pretty experimental channel. I'm talking mid to late 2000s, right around when some of the old cartoon classics.
This is a perfect subject for me because that was my generation. By that I mean I was born in 2004, so you might say I was too young to remember that.
Oh, I was born in 1989.
Named Kids Next Door, but au contraire, being a fat child.
Squirrel Boy and Cold Game Kids Next Door. Is that Paranorman?
I barely knew how to use the internet whatsoever.
Cartoon Network 2.0.
I'd always be on Cartoon Network or Nick's site playing Flash games. My point is that I can
CartoonNetwork.com. Your click is our command.
Comments, you incels. Anyway, right before the weird different side of Cartoon Network with Flapjack and Chowder for a while to produce a big mistake, scratch that, the big mistake, we as an audience were graced with a new tune from our Canadian friends from across the border.
Canada
isn't talked about in the news all the time. The show
Trump and
Total Drama Island. The basic idea was that a group
Hillary,
of
or Hillary or Sarah, I can't tell.
TV show akin to Survivor. The winner would get $100,000 if they became the last man standing among them. It was one of the first shows I regularly kept up with. The idea is pretty sound, having a group of characters who come and go as the writers wish, and with that plan, they can choose who to develop more or less before that character gets taken off. There's a level of control beyond a live-action reality survival show. Not to mention being able to make fun of low-budget reality shows by getting the characters into much more dangerous or outrageous stunts than real people could ever commit. The crew might choose to use that for fart jokes, and since this is 2008, getting hit in the dick jokes half the time, but then we get characters fighting bears, jumping out of planes to land on futons, and sleep swimming up.
Usually Family Guy has fart jokes.
It really gets pretty absurd sometimes. The outlandish stunts and situations weren't the only memorable aspect either, though the animation was kind of limited in what it could do, you know, being a 2000s Flash cartoon from Canada, a country that requires a certain amount of cartoons made per year, so we get trash like George of the Jungle half the time. The team did make some great designs.
The 2007 George of the Jungle remake.
Is recognizable through their silhouette.
It was okay, but some people prefer the Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Mickey Mouse.
Not only because they made good cartoons throughout several years, but also because their designs were incredibly unique and easy to
point out. The 2007 remake was okay, but some of you guys prefer the original 60s versions. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
By giving clear features that only specific characters have. Total Drama is able to do this the right way by giving all the characters distinct body types to fit with their personalities. Some people are less inclined to them because of their simplicity, but I think sometimes less is more. You can clearly tell what these people are like just based on what their character design is. The characters weren't anything to laugh at either. By that I mean they weren't all one-dimensional, not that they couldn't
clearly 2D.
I honestly love some of the interactions between the variety of characters. The host, Chris, is your typical survival show host with an added side of egotism and cynicism you know that they all have, but they aren't really blatant about. He makes most of the challenges on the show specifically for his own enjoyment and only really cares about entertaining.
Chris is the host.
That might sound like a flaw, but nah, Chris is probably the funniest thing on the show. The way he just doesn't give a shit is inherently funny to me. Almost every other character got to expand beyond their stereotype as well, if they stayed on long enough. Gwen the goth girl got plenty of development as an actual person beyond just being
the goth.
Courtney the control freak gave us moments of her wanting to revolt. Even the bad boy Duncan showed he had a sense side. In the 26 episodes we're given, the pace never feels too fast for us to care about who might be taken off next. Building character and motivation are the keys to having a good story-based show where they're slowly taken off. That's why Danganronpa works so well. They give you time away from the story to just have the characters learning about each other and how likely they are to betray one another. Why do you think people hate Ezekiel? It's because we never get to expand on his character or what he's like or why he became this way. He's always the first one taken off, so he's usually just a joke.
The first character to be taken off.
A dumb joke. A joke that should have ended a long time ago. Please end it.
A stupid joke?
TDI was a major hit, and with that came the word every fanboy at Comic-Con fears. Sequels. Total Drama is known very well for not just being a single season. In the beginning, they reused the same characters for the second season. Not that I was necessarily complaining, they were still fun to watch and gain different dynamics, but something about it just wasn't quite as great as the original. Then after that, to spice things up, they started adding new characters for each season. The problem with that being Total Drama's original season had 22 teen stereotypes. Teen stereotypes are not that easy to think of after a while. The fourth season was the
22
first to have an entirely new
stereotypes?
cast, and it was
It was
fine.
Several of the characters could
It's
easily be
fine.
compared to the first
It'll all
season.
be
The show is
fine.
basically
But she's around longer, Cameron is like Cody, but I'd be lying if this season didn't have its own highlights when it came to characters like Zoe and Mike and Don, who I really
Zoe,
liked.
Mike,
Then the next time they
Donna?
tried to do this with an entirely new cast, Total Drama made the worst season of their entire series. It was clear in the fourth season they were struggling to make new characters that stood out on their own, or were even teen stereotypes. They only had
Gorilla.
14 characters, because obviously thinking of another 22 would have been a
Revenge
lot
of the
more.
Island.
I still think they were a ton of fun in the time that we got with them, and while not as fleshed out as the original, they really tried to make them likable at least. Characters like
Oh,
Mike, who had to deal
big
with his
giant
identity
piranha
crisis, and Zoe, who was a survivalist type, were incredibly enjoyable, like I said before. Now, before I say what the worst season of Total Drama is, and I think anyone who's watched the series knows, I'd like to mention Total Drama Rama is non-canonical and therefore doesn't qualify. I know I'm the only person
characters
who cares
as
about this continuity, you know,
little
for
kids.
Total Drama, but if I have to waste my life caring about that, then you have to watch it. The worst season of Total Drama is Pahkitew Island. It's the sixth season in the series,
Pahkitew Island's the worst season ever?
The show itself isn't very good either.
Sixth
To put it
season.
Simply, I just plain don't like the cast, which is the most important thing in one of these shows. Think about it. If you watch a reality TV show, something that's made or broken based on if the people involved are worth watching, having bland, dumb, forgettable characters is the
Bland, dumb,
worst sin a show
forgettable
like that can have.
characters.
I only liked 3 characters in the show. That's how few of them even left an impact on me. I could go through everything wrong with each character I dislike in detail, so I will. Starting with the most forgettable character of the entire Total Drama series, Beardo. He makes noises. I have described his entire character to you. There is nothing else to say about this man.
Beardo?
He's the same as that one cop from the Police Academy. The strong /
Police
smart and
Academy.
silent type already existed with the character B from Revenge of the Island. Is Beardo either of those things? I don't know. Thankfully, he is the first one gone. Leonard.
He was
is
the
a
first
reference to a
one to be
Triumph the
ejected
Insult Dog
by
interviewer. I
Cannon.
appreciate the reference, but this guy is one of the most annoying, stereotypically dorkish characters in the entire series. His voice alone
More
turns me
annoying
off.
than
Man,
Gary from
he's dressed
Sahara?
like frickin' Dr. Evil, because of course
Dr.
he is.
Evil.
He's the stereotypical mastermind who isn't actually competent at what he does at all. As far as I'm concerned, he's nowhere near any kind of teen stereotype, so there's no excuse for him even being here. Insert obese Kokichiyoma reference here. Sugar. She's Honey Boo Boo slightly
An
grown
obese
up. Have you
character.
ever wanted to watch a
Oh,
parody
she's
of Honey Boo
Honey
Boo,
Boo
mess
Boo
around with
grown
favorite
up?
characters and have no development
Weird.
despite being in the final 3? I
Oh,
say
no, obese
parody
character
loosely
from
because she just
Danganronpa?
acts as Honey Boo Boo would and doesn't really contribute anything to any sort of commentary or nuance beyond fart jokes. Ella. She is a Disney
Fart
princess
jokes.
wannabe. She always wants to sing and
Oh,
have everyone
princess, Snow White wannabe?
to how good of a parody she is. That
Enchanted.
means not much. She does what a princess would do, and that's the extent of her character. She sings to birds, she
My
goes
mom loved
fancy, and
the
she's
movie
too nice to
Enchanted,
her
too.
own. Amy and Sammy, they're the evil twins.
Amy and
I'm not
Sammy.
going to say if a character starts off
They're twins.
stereotypical, they can't be entertaining or more beyond that stereotype, but these girls, they are the embodiment of a dumb cliche that should have died off by now. Topher, he wants to be Chris, like really badly.
Oh, it's
Like I said, have you
Topher
figured out
from-
He wants to be Chris. I need
Oh,
to
he
let you
showed
know
up
again
in the
for
Brain
30th
Drain of
time.
Poo
Trust
collab
me,
4,
his
the
entire
final
character is
spice
just that
of
he falls in
Brain
love with
Brain
every girl
Drain.
he comes into contact with, and hates from a farm. He's annoying. Scarlet, she be smart, and she be
I thought-
evil,
and I-
apparently. The
I
show
thought
doesn't care, so
Gary
why
was
should I?
annoying.
Dave.
Every
Oh,
villain
Dave.
is
He
lemons.
sucks hard. Before making this video, I had a look at the Total Drama community that I recently found exists, and they all seem to have a dislike for Dave. I didn't even know what to expect from him, but I realized why
a
he's so
dislike for
hated.
Dave?
He is
I
the
thought you
whiniest
had-
brat ever. I understand where
I
they
thought
were going with this
everybody
character.
has a
Germaphobe
dislike for
with emotional
Topher.
issues, but they already did a better version of him with Cameron, who they were able to make not whiny. Dave just
Cameron.
doesn't shut up about how dirty and filthy everything is. He's supposed to be the straight man to the
Like
crazy
how
behavior of
Rarity
the other
doesn't like
contestants, but he
everything
complains
filthy
about
and
how
dirty.
They act so much that he just comes off as annoying. He wasn't terrible.
He calls it
though.
uncouth.
That is, until the finale for the season came around. He goes entirely off the rail. Because Sky has a boyfriend back home despite wanting to be with Dave and also wanting to break up with the boyfriend, he basically tries to kill her and is happy when it looks like he does. Yeah, I hate him now. Boycott Dave, please. The only characters left are Sky, Sean, and Jasmine. Sky is just not unbearable. She's
Sean,
the most generic
and
character
Jasmine.
type and looks the least distinct among the entire cast. Sean is a guy who always thinks the apocalypse is coming. I only like him since he's a reference to a movie I enjoy, and he has the majority of the few funny lines this
like
season.
the survival horror film.
She's fine. Her trust
or
issues with
comedy
Sean seem
28
too easy to
hours.
trigger. He makes one mistake and she says she'll never trust him again. Chef is barely in the show when he was much more of a prominent character before. I just wish he was utilized more. Chris is much more cynical to the point he gets a little bit unbearable sometimes. Like on one occasion the island is about to explode and he really only cares that he gets out
island's
of their
about to
lives. He may
blow
have been
up.
incredibly harsh and ready to get the cast
Like
in
how
dangerous
the-
situations, but he cared if they were
like-
about to actually
like the
die.
prison
I
in
still like him
Sonic
for the most
Adventure
part, but
2
something about how he went so much
is rigged
farther
with
his actions makes me like him a little
explosive
bit less
bomb.
than I did in previous seasons. I didn't like the drama in Total Drama for this season either. Do you know why? Because to be able to like or care about the characters involved, you have to know them first. We got a little bit of development on the basic level for the characters, but for the most part, no one really changed their
Dave
character
sucks.
for the better or much at all throughout the season. It felt like through every episode, I was still in the first. Characters are eliminated and taken off, and their dynamics slightly change every few episodes, and all I can say is,
You know what's weird? I already don't miss him.
if I can't make an emotional connection with the character, why should it matter to me?
You know what's
which one's
weird?
Taken off
I
next
really
if
don't
barely
miss him.
noticed they were even there to begin with. I don't care who's gonna win the finale. Who gives a shit? What personality do they have, or aspirations to try and move toward? I only like Sean because he's kind of funny. He doesn't have much of a personality beyond always trying to survive a zombie attack that won't happen. Gwen from the original series had the want to go back to college if she got any money, and Owen just wanted to have a big party and make everyone happy. One might clearly be more ambitious than the other, but we've gotten to know these two over 26 episodes and enjoy them inside and out. 13 episodes is barely long enough for a show with 14 characters to try and flesh out, is what I would say if they couldn't do it, and yet we have Revenge of the Island. Revenge of the Island is a much better sequel series with much better characters we get to know more beyond their stereotype, and I still remember most of the characters even though it's been years since I've seen it. Pahkitew just did it worse. There isn't any excuse when they did it better beforehand. Speaking of which, something you may have noticed if you watched each Total Drama season is that they each have different themes and ideas to make the plot more interesting. The first season is vanilla with Camp Wawanakwa, the second has the characters on or in movie situations, World Tour has them sing and go across the globe, Revenge of the Island is about the
World
original
Tour?
island being mutated from radiation, and so on. The point of this season was
radiation.
that after Wawanakwa sunk in the previous one's finale, we'd be given a new cast of a new island with new problems. Definitely doesn't sound like the most unique of their concepts, but this season has the added bonus of the island mostly being artificial. As far as I could tell, though, this didn't have any effect on the plot until over 2/3 of the way through. Until then, Jasmine just randomly keeps pointing out, I'm pretty sure there was a tree here. This mountain is looking suspiciously out of place. Oh hey, the sun is being eclipsed by all the subtle foreshadowing I'm giving. The idea of the island being mostly artificial gives way to so many possibilities
robot
the
monkeys?
writers chose to ignore for, I guess, being able to have a moment where Scarlet snaps and tries to be evil and get the money or let the island blow up. I wish they'd been more upfront about it from the beginning instead of just waiting to tell us. Think about all the ways Chris could have made the game more interesting. He'd totally want to use that before the last few episodes. I'd certainly be more entertained because watching these guys on their own is mostly just boring. The entire season just reeks of untapped potential and badly executed ideas. Almost all of the characters had the ability to be good or slightly complex. Okay, maybe half, but my point still stands. The island itself had the potential to make the characters interact in creative ways we haven't seen from the Total Drama franchise, but it's criminally underused for most of the season. They seem to spend too much time trying to make jokes that ended up not being funny, rather than engaging its audience with the personalities we had to spend multiple hours with. They were mostly unlikable or irritating or Dave sucks! In the Dramaverse, this is my personal pick for the worst season of Total Drama. And what is the best season? Well, it's World Tour, no contest. What are you, dense? Will I make a follow-up talking about the best season to offset the negativity of this video? Possibly. You know how I am with sequels. Play
Part
me off,
2,
Johnny.
the Bakugan. Battle Brawlers New Vestoria Retrospective. Subscribe at Braxton IS. Well, that was pretty good for criticizing one of the worst seasons of Total Drama. It was pretty funny and also pretty good, despite criticizing that whatever name island is